For decades, software development functioned as a strict sequence. Business leaders, product managers, and engineers operated in silos, processing a project and passing it down a fixed line. A business head identifies a problem, a product manager writes a deterministic specification document, and an engineer writes the code to meet those exact requirements. It was a handoff based on the assumption that if you build the spec, the result is guaranteed. But large language models aren't deterministic. They are probabilistic, meaning they make judgment calls and occasionally hallucinate. You can't write a rigid spec sheet for an engine that provides a slightly different answer every time you run the prompt. The throw it over the wall method fails here. If an AI underwriter flags a fraud pattern in a bank statement, the engineer alone can't determine if that's a hallucination or a breakthrough. It forces the domain expert and the developer to sit in the same room and interpret the output together. Development is no longer a linear relay race. Because the technology is now heuristic, technical and business teams must collapse into a single collaborative loop to manage the edge cases in real time. As tools like Cloud Code and Cursor continue to evolve, the barrier to entry for writing raw syntax is rapidly approaching zero. This shift is creating a new premium on the translator, the person capable of splicing artificial neural networks into human business processes. When technical execution becomes more accessible, the competitive advantage moves towards those who can ensure that a probabilistic machine output creates a stable, high-value business outcome. Effective deployment requires treating human communication with the same rigor as a technical integration. You have to read the organization's API documentation. The human API has 3 variables: object schema, data dictionary, and error trigger. The champion fears reputation damage. The sponsor prioritizes metrics and ROI. The blocker fears losing workflow control. The end user fears being automated out of a livelihood. By mapping these triggers, we can treat organizational friction as a series of logical protocols to be solved, rather than just difficult people. Consider a hospital network deploying an AI to predict patient triage risks in the emergency room. The engineering team issues a status update. The new model has achieved 87% diagnostic accuracy. The sponsor, the hospital CFO, translates that 87% as a potential 15% reduction in specialist overtime costs. The champion, the chief of the ER, sees the 87% and wants to push the pilot into live testing immediately to secure a win. But the blocker, the head of compliance, sees the 13% error rate as a massive legal liability that could end the project. And the end user, the triage nurse, sees the 87% as a sign they will soon be reduced to merely correcting the AI's mistakes. Sending a generic 87% accuracy email to all 4 groups will likely stall the project. Raw technical data doesn't provide value until it is translated into each stakeholder's specific dialect. To navigate these conflicting perspectives, you need a systematic communication protocol, the what, so what, and now what framework. The what is the raw data, your 87% accuracy. This is the static baseline truth that never changes, regardless of the audience. The so what is the translation layer. Here, the data is recalibrated to address the error triggers of the individual. You talk to the sponsor about ROI, but you talk to the blocker about the 13% human-in-the-loop safety protocols. The now what defines the tailored action. By speaking to the specific needs of the persona, you move from just providing a status update to securing the specific sign-off or collaboration you need to proceed. Successful deployment isn't about changing the technical facts. It's about routing those facts through the correct psychological filter. Value in the AI era is shifting. It no longer sits exclusively with the people who can write code. As technical syntax becomes a commodity, the human API becomes a critical differentiator. Mastering the translation between machine logic and human psychology is the ultimate moat that ensures a technical solution actually survives the organization it was built to serve.